Hi there.
Well, hello. All the different steps, unmuting and getting everything ready. Hi, Brad. Nice to
Yeah.
nice to see you.
Yeah, and likewise. Great to see you. I've been enjoying listening to your new album. I'm
Thank
anxious to talk
you.
about it. I noticed you've got Beethoven peering over your shoulder there. I'm
Hey,
talking with Jennifer Kloetzel, wonderful cellist, and Jennifer used to be with the Cypress Quartet before you guys
that's right.
disbanded a while back. Now you recorded all those Beethoven string quartets with Cypress. You spent a lot of time with Beethoven. You've got him looking over your shoulder there. I'm sensing a bit of a pattern here.
A pattern, I don't know. It's an obsession, I would say. Clearly
Ah,
an
okay.
obsession. Actually, not only is he looking over my shoulder, and this is my music room, and he's always watching me practice, but if you were to look up close, you'll see, well, here's another Beethoven bust over here.
Oh yeah, I did see that. Yeah.
Even my water glass that I didn't even realize is a Beethoven water glass. So yes, it's a little bit of an obsession, and it's been a lifelong obsession, actually.
Yeah. As
So
long as he doesn't start talking back to you, you're good, right?
that, or look at him behind my shoulder. He looks like he's taking notes, like he's always writing little critiques of what I'm doing.
Yeah. So this new album with a pianist, is it Robert Koenig or Koenig?
Koenig,
Koenig,
Koenig.
yeah,
Mhm,
Robert Koenig, playing the piano with you. You're performing all of the music for the solo cello with piano.
mhm.
There's a lot of stuff there and a lot of history as far as the cello goes that was so influenced by Beethoven, especially in those cello sonatas.
It's
Why don't
true.
we start out talking a little bit about Beethoven's approach to the cello? Then I want to hear about
Okay.
your approach to Beethoven, right?
Okay, great. Yeah, sure. Happy to do that. We owe a huge debt of gratitude to Beethoven for writing such a wide range and such wonderful music for us, because, of course, there are no Mozart cello sonatas. There are Mozart
Yeah.
violin sonatas, but none for the cello. And with Haydn, we have the two concertos, although there's some debate about that. But with Beethoven, it's really a clear set of music. People debate about, I've included 9 works on my collection here. Of course, the 5 cello sonatas, the 3 sets of variations, and then I added a little extra thing because I discovered this a little bit later, which was his Opus 17 Horn Sonata. When it was sent to the publisher, Beethoven himself wrote a cello part, so a little different than the horn version. So I decided to include that. There were some later pieces for cello and piano that Czerny, Beethoven's student,
Mhm.
arranged for cello and piano, and I decided not to include those. So I just wanted to do these are Beethoven's works as I believe them to be. And those early works, the whole first disc, so it's the 3 disc set we have here, the whole first disc focuses on 1796, which is when he wrote the first set of variations, the Conquering Hero variations, hence the title. Well, there's a couple stories behind that title, but that's one of them. See the Conquering Hero Comes. He borrowed that theme from Handel, or really loved Handel's music. So he, was one of his main influences, Handel and Mozart. So it's interesting that he started out at that place. And at this point, 1796, that would have been Beethoven playing the piano part. So he was writing for himself.
Yeah.
But there's more behind that, because the Opus 5 sonatas that come right after that were influenced. So Beethoven was playing at the Prussian court and met the Duport brothers, these 2 fantastic um, cellists. Actually, they were court cellists. It's a job title I would love to hold one day. If we do we have this anymore? I want to be appointed court cellist somewhere. But there were these amazing brothers, and he heard the cello playing, and it inspired him to write these pieces. So we're
Yeah.
grateful to them as well. So those early sonatas are a little more, very piano heavy. It's Beethoven showing off, because he went back to perform them in the court and wanted to, receive payment for that, of course. But he does, I think he wanted to delight the Duport brothers, or the older one as well, because he would have performed this with him. Um, so that's how I began my set here, and it's in chronological order as I see it over the set of the 3 discs. So that second disc is sort of the more, if you will, a little bit quirkier thing. So we have the 2 sets of magic flute variations. So Mozart being another hero of Beethoven's, he took two different themes from the magic flute and set those as sets of variations. And in between that, coming right in between that in time, is the Opus 17 Horn Sonata. So
Mm.
that's that disc. And then we
Well,
move to where he
yeah,
gets heroic and then later. So yeah.
right. Yeah, it's kind of like a tour of the cello, but it's also a tour of Beethoven's periods of composition. You talk about those early cello sonatas being a little piano heavy, then the script is flipped, towards the end.
Exactly.
With his later sonatas, they're very much centered on the cello. And one thing I noticed throughout all of those sonatas is Beethoven's unpredictability, because he's
Mhm.
working with such small forces, the piano and the cello.
Yeah.
He tends to really, really get the most out of very small gestures. And I think that's had a profound influence on the repertoire. Would you agree with that?
I would completely agree with that. Many people, scholars, will say that the Opus 69 sonata, his third sonata, is the one where really we have the two instruments becoming equal. And I think that Beethoven's true nod to that, both in his third and his fourth sonata, it starts with a solo cello line. So it's almost like there's going to be no mistake that this is a clear match between these instruments. And he's really exploring the whole range of the cello. Some of them go up quite high on the cello, and of course employ the low strings as well because it's cello, as we would want to do. And in those last two sonatas, which are the fourth and fifth, which were the last works he wrote for cello and piano, from 1815, it's really when he's turning towards his late style of music too. You'll find more pauses, more abrupt harmony changes, a little bit more surprising, things bumped up right next to each other, the contrasts, which are exciting and kind of thrilling. Even at this point in my life, I've played them so much, but I still love the surprises in there, and also the cleverness. He'll write a line for the cello, sort of in the middle of the cello range, and he'll have the piano at opposite ends, high and low, sort of. Nobody's covering the same territory. Very clever.
Yeah, can you talk a little bit about your approach to playing this music? And I guess you have to talk about Robert Koenig as well, because it's a
I do
collaborative effort, right?
very much
But
so.
how
Yeah.
do you make this your own? I mean, so many luminaries in the cello world have recorded this for
Of
posterity. I
course.
wonder how you approach it yourself.
Well, one of the things you have to do if you're going to approach a project like this is not let all those, other things sort of become daunting to you, like so many people have done it before.
Yeah.
I think because I've been working on and studying Beethoven and playing all this music since I was so young, and it's been such a huge part of my life. I have a way that I look at Beethoven and approach his dynamic contrasts, how he treats melodies, how he suddenly will turn on a dime to make you from melody into accompaniment. And so I really explore the extremes of all that to make it my own, I guess.
Yeah.
um, yeah.
Well, that's part of the genius of the music itself, that it can be interpreted by so many different artists.
Yeah.
And you bring, your own qualities to that performance as well. Tell us about your relationship with the pianist, Robert Koenig.
Yes. So Bob and I met actually many, many years ago when we were at Juilliard. I was a student, and he was the studio pianist, or one of the studio pianists, for the great violin pedagogue Dorothy Tilley. And so we crossed paths but weren't close friends. And then in 2016, when my quartet, the Cypress Quartet, disbanded, I of course needed to find some new new employment, something to do. And it was actually Bob who reached out to me a few months before the quartet ended and said, I hear your, job is ending, and we have a cello opening here at University of California, Santa Barbara, looking for a cello lecturer at that point. And it's a part-time job, but I don't know if you'd be interested. And I was interested, and I applied. And actually at my audition, that was the first time that Bob and I played together. And on that program was the last movement of the A major sonata. That was my opening work for my audition for that job. And we have played together for the last 5 years in many places and for many projects. And it was, an immediate match made in heaven. So
Yeah.
I feel like we approach this music very similarly. And he's just a delight to play with. He's a brilliant pianist.
But you became a court cellist after all. You're just working at the
I
school,
did.
right?
I did. We often talk about that. It's like we no longer have the royal courts, but we have either, their symphonies or concert series or whatever. Those are our courts now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you carry it with you. Yeah,
Yes. Yes.
that's wonderful. I mean, it's interesting to see the collaborative process take flight, when you listen to this recording. I wonder if you can talk a little bit about, I mean, when you and Robert approach a piece, I
Mhm.
mean, are you the one who kind of takes the lead because it's cello sonata, or does it go back and forth? How does that work?
Well, that's an interesting point because, of course, when Beethoven published these pieces, they're titled sonatas for piano and cello. So
Yeah.
piano comes first. We call them cello sonatas in the vernacular, but technically they're sonatas for piano and cello. So, and I don't really, I'm a lifelong chamber musician. I never impose my will that strongly. I have strong opinions, but always willing to work with somebody I'm performing with because that's important to make it ours together. And I think, we discuss everything from tempo to dynamic range to how closely we follow the score. I think that's something I'm very attached to. Beethoven is very bossy when it comes to his markings. I mean, music notation, as people may know, it's an imperfect art. It's hard to describe exactly what you want in sound, but Beethoven puts a lot of markings in, and I think when you follow those markings to the letter, something exciting and special happens. So I'm sort of a stickler for that, I would say, and I think Bob agrees with me in that. And you'll notice even in this set of recordings, I followed. It's every repeat that Beethoven wrote that I love form, and Beethoven explored a lot with form, and in fact, changing it over his life. So you'll hear in those early sonatas, the first movements are 20 minutes long. They're huge movements with repeats. The second sonata has a double repeat in it, and I do that. I don't think many people do that. It's kind of fun to explore.
Well, you make a great case with your performance for doing
Thank you.
those repeats. Wonderful recording. What precipitated this now? I mean, had you wanted to do this for a while?
I had, after I finished recording the 16 Beethoven string quartets with the Cypress, I was thinking, well, I'm not done with Beethoven. And in fact, I remember finishing up the late quartets in the studio and thinking to myself, I just want to do these again. Because, the moment you leave the recording studio, you have new ideas for the music. And especially this music, where there's such richness in it. I'm always thinking about how I want to try it the next time. So I knew one of my projects leaving the quartet was I knew that I wanted to explore more of the Beethoven chamber music, and I couldn't decide whether I wanted to record the piano trios next or the cello sonatas next or the string trios or what. I mean, that would be sort of a lifelong dream to have recorded all of the chamber music that Beethoven wrote with cello involved. But with my meeting of Bob and our collaboration together, it just made sense. And in 2019, I just jumped off that bridge and said, we're going to do this, and started. And the hope was to release them for the big 250th, anniversary of Beethoven's birthday. Of course, I felt like everybody was jumping on that bandwagon, but I felt like I deserved a place there because I've been a lifelong, Beethoven person. But so we're celebrating 251, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Everything got a little delayed with the pandemic. So
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're glad that you were able to make the album and to get it out. It just came out last week, in fact,
it
from
did.
Avi Records, the Avi
Mhm.
record label. Folks can find it anywhere, though, right?
That's right. Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's pretty much all the iTunes, Spotify, and then you can,
yeah,
buy. Actually, I recommend if you still have a disc, a CD player somewhere.
that's
I
me right
love the
there. I have a CD
that.
player, so
Me too. I still have records too, but
wow.
yeah, but listen on good speakers. But also, there's a wonderful booklet with some terrific notes by a Beethoven scholar friend of mine who used to run the Beethoven Center in San Jose, William Meredith, and it's a fascinating take on his view of the pieces, and so that
Yeah.
we can all learn from that too.
Give us your social media if we want to keep up with you. It's just
Sure.
your
Well,
name or okay.
right. Well, on Facebook, it's Jennifer Kloetzel Cello, because I have it with a personal page and a business page, and then JK Cello Diva
Ah,
is
nice.
hey, my mother was an opera singer. I have a few diva tendencies, but that's on Instagram. So you can find me,
Okay.
or my website. You can read more or hear more recordings and that's jkcello.com.
Okay, great. We will link to that when we post this interview. Jennifer
Fantastic.
Kloetzel, congratulations on the Beethoven album.
Thank you.
Congratulations to the gentleman standing behind you and the little guy back there on the shelf as well. It's a wonderful recording. I'm so glad that
Thank
you
you.
took the time to talk about some of this stuff today here on FM 91.
Well, thank you for having me, Brad. It's great to speak with you.